Welcome everybody, Dylan here, and thank you so much for tuning in. Today I want to talk about a topic that we hear very often, but I think for those of you, hopefully you don't just gloss over this video. What I'd like for you guys to do is sit with this video, sit with what I'm going to be saying here, and I'll try to make it as brief as possible, but really think about what I'm saying. And the reason for that being because, and I wrote down some notes ahead of this video, is that if you really stop and think about so much of suffering, your own suffering, everybody's suffering, is 100% rooted in your mind. All suffering is rooted in your mind, in your thoughts. And that's the part that I really want you all watching this video to sit with and to think about. That, and you'll hear this often in spiritual work, and you'll hear this often even in religious contexts. I often think of, you guys know I quote scripture a lot. I think scripture provides a lot of symbolic truths about the nature of being a human being and the nature of creation. And it says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And it's a very simple thing to say. Change your mind, change your life. You know, Wayne Dyer had a book that I read a lot, front and back many times, and it was change your thoughts, change your life. Change your mind, change your life. Be renewed by your mind. And so for many people that I work with on a daily basis, a lot of the work that we do is kind of reprogramming those inner beliefs. Because life is like a mirror. So it will always, your outer world will always reflect back to you what your innermost beliefs are. And so by creating this video, I really want you all listening to this to take a moment and just sit with your thoughts. Analyze if you're currently experiencing in your life right now resistance, turmoil, maybe in relationships, whether it be friendships or boyfriends, girlfriends, husbands, wives, children's, family members, you name it. All suffering is rooted in the mind. It's how you think about everyone and everything and all of the situations. And then what happens is you get stuck in that loop. Because remember, your outer world will always mirror back to you what you're looping in your mind, your innermost beliefs. Always. And so the hardest thing to do, and we always say this in the work that I do, is it starts with awareness. So if you are aware of this, that's like the hardest part. But do a self-analysis. Let this video be kind of your pause button to really think about what I'm saying. And if there's anything in your life right now that is reflecting back to you some sort of discomfort, some sort of suffering, financial suffering, relationship suffering, work suffering, bills, whatever it might be, marriage, health, right? I work with a lot of people who are facing health challenges as well. I used to have a coach that would tell me, your opinions are the root of your suffering. And so think about that for a moment. You go through life and you have all these opinions and stories and expectations about how people should be, how the world should operate. God forbid you talk about politics, right? There's a lot of very emotionally charged opinions in that space. I mean, just spend a day on social media and see all of people's opinions. And unfortunately for most of us, with an uncontrolled mind, an unaware mind, that creates an immense amount of suffering within you and within others as well too. And so there's a lot of tools and techniques that we use. We have a 12-week inner transformation program, and several of the weeks are focused on creating a new identity, tools for recontextualization, tools for reprogramming your subconscious mind and how you think about everyone and everything, and moving away from the thoughts that create suffering into thoughts that create alignment and abundance. And you'll often hear me say in the work that I do that life is like a mirror. And so if you frown into a mirror, you're going to get a frown back. But if you smile into a mirror, you're going to get a smile back. And then people wonder why they keep repeating these same cycles. You know, for me, I was married twice and through countless relationships. And with each relationship, I did, up until now, I did zero inner work. And then what happens is those old relationships, you just bring in an unchanged you and you expect something different. And then that relationship falls apart, right? I remember Wayne Dyer making a statement, something like, a lot of people will want to move out of their community or out of the place in which they live because they kind of, it's too hectic here, the people are too stressed here, the traffic's so bad, my life is so terrible here, and I want to uproot and move to a whole nother location. And he gives you an example of someone who had asked, well, what is this place like? What is Hawaii like? And he would always say, it's probably a lot like where you used to live. And there's a deep analogy there, because if you go from one place or one relationship or one job or one place and you don't change, you don't do the inner work to change yourself and change your thoughts and change your opinions and change your expectations about everyone and everything, then if you move from that place and you move to Hawaii and you've done zero change for yourself, you're going to find a reason and an excuse to find all the issues where you live now in Hawaii. I'm just giving you an example. And so it's a great analogy. And that's the point that I'm trying to make here. But what I really want to drive home, and maybe it will take some time for some of you to come to this realization, but 100% of your suffering is how you think about everything. And so if you want to change your life, you got to change your thoughts. I wrote down some notes here as well. I got a little bit off a topic, but and so how do we do that? And so one of the things that I want to encourage you listening to right now is pick one thing in your life that you want to transform. It can be a relationship, it can be finances, it could be something involved with your health, whatever it is. Pick one thing in your life that is creating suffering and redo the story around it. And so catch those thoughts. And maybe it's a situation where you just have to give up your opinion. You know, we teach within the course, you don't always have to have an opinion. And a lot of times, your opinion is what's causing more suffering about how people should be, how people should act. Should somebody hold the door open for you? Your level of expectations at a restaurant. If the service didn't go so good, you feel let down, right? And so we teach you to sit with your emotions before you respond. And we teach you to, when needed, maybe suspend your opinions, maybe suspend your expectations, to treat life as an experiment. I wonder what would happen if I did this, and not judge it. And emotional maturity. Because if you want to reduce suffering in your life, learn to control your emotions. When that feeling of anger arises, instead of your natural response and your natural outburst, being able to control that and respond from a non-emotional standpoint. Imagine if just a small percent of the world went through every day and just paused before they reacted. And I talk about this in a lecture I did called Emotional Mastery. It's on the YouTube channel here. But imagine if our elected leaders went through their day and didn't allow emotions and ego to control them. That they had spent some time learning to control their emotions and to think from a logical, non-emotional standpoint. Imagine how better your relationships would be if you didn't let emotions drive you. So all that to say, and all that to bring awareness to all of your suffering is literally rooted in your thoughts and how you think about everyone and everything. And so if you want to change your outer world, you need to change your inner thoughts. And you can do that systematically one by one. And so pick the thought that is creating the most suffering in your life right now. It's likely an opinion about something. It's likely an emotion about something. It's likely an expectation about something. Pick one thing this week and rewrite the script, how you think about it. And I'll just give you a very simple example. I say this a lot, but if you always say to yourself that I'm not lucky, stop saying that to yourself. Because remember, if you believe yourself not to be lucky, then the outer world is going to mirror back to you more circumstances in which you're not lucky. If you say to yourself, I don't have enough money or I'm broke, catch yourself saying that, because remember, the outer world will repeat back to you what you believe and what you say the most. And so redo it and say, money comes to me effortlessly. Opportunities, I don't know how, but they always arrive. I'm always taken care of. I don't need to worry about money. Somehow, some way, I'm always taken care of. I'm going to rest in that. And then what happens and sometimes it happens quicker than others, and really the basis for that is your inner conviction, right? So how much are you believing what you're telling yourself? But it's catching that thought that's creating suffering, and it's replacing it with one that dissolves suffering. And only you can do that. And so do that this week. And then repeat it. And in a thought, in a feeling, in your subconscious mind, repeat it over and over. Over time will become your new truth, and the outer world will mirror that back to you. So whatever opinions and expectations and feelings have created your suffering now, they didn't happen overnight. They likely happened over your entire lifetime, and they're not going to be rewound overnight. And so having the patience and having the faith and having the trust and seeing it for what it is. But it's picking one thing at a time and dissolving it and transforming it through this process. And then now that becomes your new inner conviction. That becomes your new inner truth. And what we know is that reality will always mirror back to you. Now you're going to have more situations in your life where luck appears to you. You're going to have more situations in your life where your relationships are healthier. You're going to have situations in your life where more abundance starts to flow to you just by changing your thoughts. And do that one by one. You don't need to do them all at once. Pick the one that's creating the most suffering and transform it today. And so watching this video, I encourage all of you to do that. Maybe put in the comments what it is that you're working on and what it is that you're transforming. And stick with it until it becomes your new truth. And once it becomes your new truth and you feel it as such, because that's the key, you have to feel it as your new truth. Watch how the outer world begins to move around that and reflect that back to you over time. And then if you really, really, really want to add, gasoline to this process in a good way, okay? Maybe that's not the best analogy, but in a good way, if you really want to accelerate this, you use your power of your imagination to do that. And so instead of just verbally rewriting the script and repeating that new truth in your mind over and over, now you tie in your imagination. And so that situation that you want to dissolve and you want to transform, you see it how you want it transformed in your mind, visually. You feel it with all of your senses. And then that accelerates the process. And so maybe it's a relationship that you want to improve. And so you can see a scenario in your mind that implies that that relationship has already approved. And this is where a lot of people kind of go wrong, is they see the process happening, but you have to feel it and see it as if it has already happened. Not on its way to happening, not in the process of happening, but you pick a scene in your mind that implies it's already done. And I often use the example of, if you were out looking for a new job, you wouldn't imagine the interview process and the conversation in the interview process. Instead, what you might imagine is a very short 1 to 2 minute loop in your mind that implies you already received the job. And so it could be a phone call from a friend or a family member congratulating you on the new job or the new raise. Because now that's already implied that it's done. You have the job. And then it's not enough to visualize that, you have to feel it. And so in your mind, you can see the scene, but then feel what's happening around you. Feel the seat that you're sitting in. Hear the noises that might be occurring. Is the room cold? Is the room warm? Are you in a bed? Are you on a chair? Are you at a dining room table? Are you out to eat? You have to feel it with all of your senses. And that makes things come about really, really, really quickly. And that's the trick. Is living from the wish fulfilled. Living from the end as if it has already occurred. And so if you're having a challenge, let's say with a relationship, you might envision a scene in which that relationship has already improved. And you feel that and you loop that. And then eventually your subconscious mind begins to accept that as your new truth. And your outer world, just like that mirror, will reflect it back to you. And so all of that just to bring awareness to the fact that 100% of everything that you experience in terms of suffering, everything you experience in terms of joy and pleasure and opportunity and abundance, the whole spectrum stems from your subconscious mind and your innermost beliefs. And so the old saying, change your mind, change your life, is very, very true. And if this is something that you want to go deeper into, I would invite you to join our 12-week inner transformation journey, because we're going to walk you through the process of awareness, walk you through the process of inner transformation, and give you an entire set of tools over 12 weeks. By the time you look back, you won't even recognize your old self. You'll do an assessment when you first go into that 12-week course, and you'll do assessment at the end of 12 weeks, and we don't let you rush through it. It's week by week by week by week, building and transforming one step at a time, because transformation requires patience. Transformation requires an open mind. Transformation requires flexibility. And remember, to become somebody new, you have to die to your old self. Of course, we're figuratively speaking, right? But you have to become somebody new, you have to die to your old self. Your old habits, your old opinions, your old beliefs. And I've been doing a lot of work here recently with identity, because that's a huge topic within the Caden Academy. Because when you change your identity and you become somebody new, your habits, your beliefs, your behaviors follow your identity. So many people do it the opposite way around. They pick a habit to transform, they pick a belief to transform, an opinion to transform, but they never change who they believe themselves to be. And so they just get more of the same. And transformation doesn't stick. The new habits don't develop. And so when you focus on becoming a new you, dying to your old self, completely reinventing yourself, when you embody that new you, how does that person think? How does that person talk? What are their mannerisms? Would a person who's, a successful individual show up late? No, you would show up on time. Would a confident individual be weak and hesitant? No. So same thing, right? They would sit up straight and they would be confident. And so your identity, habits, and behavior follow identity. So, so all that to say, I've been saying this a lot this week, that nobody's going to save you, only you can save yourself. But the good news is you have the tools, you have the power of creation in you. And it's just a matter of catching those thoughts, those behaviors, those expectations that are not you anymore, and rewriting the script and transforming them, okay? So share in the comments one thing that you're going to try to transform over the next 1 to 2 weeks. And for everybody watching, join us in our 12-week inner transformation course. You can do that at cadenacademy.com. And the first 3 weeks are free. The first 3 weeks are awareness. And then we move into weeks 4, 5, and 6, which we really get into this deep work. But the first 3 weeks are free, so try it out. I always encourage you to experiment for yourself. Don't just listen to what I'm saying, but experiment for yourself. And I offer a free, we call it a strategy call. It might be a clarity call. I've been calling it a clarity call recently as well, too. But I have had some wonderful, wonderful conversations with people. I allow for 1 to 2 a day, free, completely free, 20 to 30 minute clarity call. And you can also book that one time for free at thecadenacademy.com. But I've had some wonderful transformations. I've had people that have called me who are having trouble visualizing, and then I'm able to very quickly say, this is the missing piece, try this, and then boom, results. And so they've been great, so I invite you to take advantage of that as well too. But yeah, comment below, subscribe, like, do all those cool things. We'll see you in the next video. Take care, everyone.